Awesome. So we are live. Hey everybody, and Mr. Luke Johnson, founder of Shredded by Science, entrepreneur, and yeah, just a prominent figure in the fitness world these days. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. That was a good intro. I think we could have listed a ton of things like a PS4, Battlefield 1 player, a dad, a guy who's doing bodybuilding now. I'm adding things to the CV.
Yeah. No, it's maybe let's start with the bodybuilding stuff just real briefly. That's not gonna be the main theme of this particular podcast, but I'm personally curious. So you mentioned before the call that you're about 6 and some weeks out from your show. So what does that mean? How much more do you have to lose? What kind of body fat you're at, and all those things.
Yeah, body fat wise percentage is probably a load of nonsense purely because when I had my DEXA, I've basically been having DEXA scans. I've had two. I'm going to have one day out from the show when I'm sort of carb loaded. So hopefully the lean body mass I supposedly lost at the halfway stage will not be, or hopefully it's not as bad. But yeah, so body fat percentage, it's a weird one because you've got to look at how much muscle mass you've got. So if I just put on some muscle mass, the percentage would drop. So I've got at least a decent-ish bit of mass. But in regards to the dieting, I've been dieting since like beginning of February. I think it was around February the 9th, 10th that I started dieting. So my whole prep's going to be 9 months long. We're 6 and a bit weeks out. My coach, Eric Kelms, who I'm sure you're familiar with, is very happy with the progress. He actually commented on some striations coming out in my glutes. I said, I didn't realize this, Eric, because I can't see my behind. It's been really easy, to be fair. As I said before we got on, I was ill last week. So now that the illness is sort of going away, I feel fresh again. So I think I appreciate the illness because it probably made me feel a little bit more like how most people say dieting is for a bodybuilding show. But yeah, very, very easy. A lot easier than I thought it would be. Have you ever competed?
No, I have not. Leanest I've been was like 8% body fat for my own personal entertainment.
Yeah. Nice. Yeah, so it's gone very good. Thank you for asking. And easy, weirdly.
Yeah, and I've heard you talk about it before on other shows that you find it surprisingly easy. Have you talked about this with Eric, your coach? What do you attribute that ease to? Is it like your personality type? Is it like you just genetically have low appetite, or what do you think it is?
Yeah, I think it's a mixture of multiple things. Obviously, I spoke to Eric every sort of week. I have to do a video update, so I go to Eric and I go, I really want to tell you that I'm finding it hard, but I'm really finding it easy. I'm like, we're waiting for it to get hard. But when Eric came over about a month ago and he said that he noticed that clients or people he preps who are parents, sometimes it can work for them or against them. Like I'm around temptation all the time. So I definitely think the majority of the things why I'm finding it easy is definitely like a personality thing, as in it's just me. It's like innate inside me. I definitely think that's probably the main thing. I think perspective. It's not as if I've had a hard life and dieting's easy, but at the end of the day, I'm choosing to put on this little black number. See that? I got that especially for the podcast.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, that's probably the weirdest thing so far. But staying busy, I think if you're a parent and you have your own business and you're just a busy person and you're working and you're keeping active and busy, you don't really have time to think about it. It's when you're at home. The hardest time I found on prep was when the girlfriend and son went away. And on that weekend, I was like, I've got no sort of distractions. That was the hardest part. So I think it's multiple factors, personality-wise, and also just keeping busy, trying to run a business, trying to launch an academy, like 4 weeks out from a show definitely helps because I've got that mentality and focus on that at the moment.
Right. If people are curious about your contest prep in more detail, then I will link to Revive Stronger that did a cool interview with you. And and we're not gonna get into that in detail, but just while we're on the personality side of things, probably in this podcast it will become clear that you're kind of like you struck me as kind of this go-getter type of person, like very kind of intrinsically motivated and like not like kind of just pushing forward, like looking forward, not really worrying about things too much type of guy. Is this something that you've always been like, or have you developed this over time?
Yeah, I was on another podcast recently and I said, even from a young age, I've always truly believed that I've not been put on this earth to just be okay with being average. So I've always had that mindset. It's a weird one because when I was younger, I used to compete in karate. So I am a very, very competitive individual. And back then it used to be in sort of martial arts form. And then as I've got older, it got into more of the business sense. So it's always, I compete in things I know I will win, or I have a very good probability of winning. So one, it's been that competitiveness. I mean, my sister used to do karate as well, and she used to be competitive. But my brother, he's the total opposite. But for me, it's the winning. It's the feeling you get of like prior to a competition, sort of the nervousness, the excitement. And for me, whenever I used to compete, it was always my first fight. If I win my first fight, I win the whole competition. If I didn't win that first fight, obviously I'm out of the competition. But it's that first fight, once that first initial stage, which I think is a lot with people in their business, is once you get over that first initial phase, it just makes things a lot easier. But I definitely, competitiveness. And I've always said, if something's not working, I'll find a way. If something's not working, you've got to analyze it. Is it not working because it's a terrible idea? And if so, it's not like throw shit on the wall and see what sticks. It's like, it might just not be sticking because the market's not ready for it, or there's not a big enough demand for it when we look at supply and demand. Or it could just be that there is, but something just needs to tweak. So for me, it's just having that competitiveness and design, just really wanting to make sure that if I'm gonna do it, I'm gonna do it properly, and that's my thing. As I said, I only compete in the things I want to compete in, and it goes back to the school days when I got like A in GCSE PE and I got a D in English. And if I don't like something, I don't give it any time. I don't give it any effort. But with me, if I enjoy something, I will go all in on it. So it's like all or nothing with me. And when I was probably a little bit younger, I used to be, as you said, like a go-getter. I have many, many weaknesses. I'm not academically intelligent. I'm not one of those. I have nothing amazing about me. It's just, one, I can probably outwork you. Two, I know I'm definitely more competitive than you. And I'm just, when I put my mind to something, I become obsessive. So I haven't got OCD in the sort of grand scheme of things in regards to turning light switches off 3 times, washing my hands 3 times, and that type of OCD. I have obsessive tendencies when it comes to things like, I really want to work out how to grow an Instagram following, or how to use YouTube, or how to use Final Cut Pro, or how to set up a website. When I put my mind to something, I have to go all in, and I get engrossed in it. And that's when I feel at my best, when I'm in that sort of frame of mind. I suppose from a sporting context, you could say that people would say you're in the zone. And for me, I get that. When I'm in the zone, it's get out of my way. And even when I go back to the competitiveness, I used to purposely make myself angry because I used to perform better when I was angry. So it's getting into that frame of mindset, and it's knowing when to, you can't constantly, from a business point of view, or even from a competitive sort of sporting point of view, you can't be in that zone for too long because you'll just burn out. And whether it's mentally or physically, there's going to be a burnout. Even when I first started my prep, I was actually eating like a clean eater. And I thought, come on now, Luke, like you're going, you're 9 months out. If you're at this stage already with 9 months out, how are you going to be able to sustain this? Right. And then having that change of mindset. So with me, depending on the time of the year or when stuff needs to happen, and I always try to, obviously it's like a fitness related podcast, so I know we're obviously talking more about business, but I always like to use the example of like powerlifting or periodization, where you're looking to peak. And when you're looking to peak, everything will change. So when we having a launch or on the academy or a conference, when we're not that close to it, the content we're put out on social media will be more varied. It won't be ultra specific. But as we get closer to the event, like closer to a meet, the content we put out is ultra specific. And we have like this ultra focused tunnel vision on just that goal. So I think you need to have goals But I think more importantly, you need to have a vision. And when it comes to business, it's knowing when to tunnel in and focus on what needs to be done. And then there's other times when you can be less sort of tunnel vision and be more of a looking at more of the overall vision, if that makes sense.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So you brought up a couple of things that I wanted to touch on in this interview, and so maybe let's connect this on how Shredded by Science got started, and maybe I can spare you telling your story, which you told me that you're kind of sick of telling over and over again. But from what I understand, you were a personal trainer in a gym. You were like preparing for like photo shoots and doing all the things that, well, not all the things, but some of the things that probably a lot of people can attest to. And it kind of the way Shredded by Science started out was kind of just a short burst of idea when you invited Alan Aragon and Eric Helms and some of the prominent fitness experts to a seminar, and that went very well, and that was kind of the birth of your business now. So, and you mentioned in the beginning that if you won the first fight in a karate competition, then you won the whole competition. But if you wouldn't have won it, then maybe it wouldn't have gone as well. So what do you think if that seminar when you invited over these people wouldn't have gone so well? Do you think you still would have generated this business that you ended up creating? Or how do you think it would have changed your path overall?
Yeah, I think it goes back to even before that with my son's birth. When my girlfriend told me she was pregnant, obviously Lenny wasn't planned, and it wasn't. I think obviously everyone's got a story, and people like stories. It's a whole thing as people tell stories, and it's great for market and stuff like that. But I wasn't struggling at all financially, living at home, getting paid over £30,000 a year, being like early 20s. So even before Alan Aragon, before that, Lenny was the catalyst, and that was when I got into online coaching. So that was when sort of SBS wasn't even thought of then. Online coaching was my thing of making additional revenue. That was my side chick. That was my side hustle, if you want to use those terminology, because I was already doing a full-time lecturing job as a college teaching level 2, level 3 fitness qualifications. So I needed to save money, and I ended up in 9 months saving around £16,000 to £17,000. And then that was an achievement. That was my goal, as in this was the catalyst. Damn, I need to do something. And my thing was, how much money can I save from now until Lenny's born? So during that process, obviously, I'm then creating my side business is then taking more of an effect, and I'm actually enjoying this. I'm not having an employer or someone else having control over what I do, when I do it, and where I do it, which for me as a person was quite suffocating. So I definitely think that was the catalyst. And then based on that information, once I knew early on, I was working 40 hours a week already with online coaching. Some of the weeks I was probably doing 80 to 90 hours a week in regards to putting out social media content, whether it's writing blogs, whether it was just actual training plans and updates for clients. So for like a 9 to 12 month period, I was doing sort of 80 to 90 hour weeks, which was fine. Which is fine because I think knowing what I know now, going through the prep, I can handle quite a lot. I never really get stressed. If things happen in my personal life, then I will take it on board. I'm the guy who, if there's an emergency or there's a panic and everyone else starts going off on one, I'm the guy who actually it stays cool, tries to find a solution. There is no, this is something's gone wrong and it's the end of the world. There's always an answer. I'm more of an optimist than I'm a pessimist. And once I realized it all happened with an email to Alan Aragon. So the lights were all turning off in the office because they're energy saving. So hence why I've got this light on here. Yeah, but then that goes back to what we were saying. Once that first initial stage, once Alan Aragon agreed, once I sent him an email and he didn't reply, and I sent him another email a week later and he said, yes, I'd be interested. And when we sort of turned over my salary in a weekend, once I had Alan on board, I didn't wait for Alan's conference to happen and that's when I sort of learned about selling thin air. And what I mean by that is with the conference, we were selling tickets 2-3 months before the actual conference. So we got paid. So quite a lot of things that people quite often things that put people off is oh God, I've got to pay for a venue. I've got to pay for flights. I've got to pay for accommodation. I've got to pay for the speaker's fee. Well, guess what? When you do conferences and stuff like that, you get paid first. The venue gets paid last. The speaker gets paid once they speak. And so you can already start generating that money. So you're selling thin air. You're selling a day which is coming in the future. And rather than me waiting to see how it went, because I have that self-belief and I'll always find a way to make it happen, I contacted Brad Schoenfeld. And I said, I'm the guy who got Alan Aragon over. He then contacted Alan. Alan said, Luke's a good guy. He never even met me in person, only via Skype. And then once Brad was on board, I contacted Eric Helm. So I didn't wait. I don't wait for stuff to happen. I don't just put a post out on Instagram and use some hashtags and expect people to find me, then come and get in contact with me and then say, please take my money. That isn't how business works. That isn't how life works. So it's making the most of stuff. And once you've got that momentum, to not wait around, just keep with it and then grow from there and have a mindset where you're always looking like whenever we have a conference or an academy intake and the business is doing well and we've got more and more numbers and more money's coming through the business, I don't sit down and pat myself on the back. I just see it as one small part of the grand scheme of things. I think what a lot of fitness professionals do now, especially those on like Instagram who maybe have a pair of abs or a pair of glutes, is they see that they can make a short-term financial reward based on them being an influencer and promoting everyone else's product. Now, for a long-term business, but if we had more of it's being patient and impatient at the same time. And what I mean by that is being patient in the result and what will happen on a yearly basis, but being impatient on a daily, weekly, and monthly basis. And what I mean by that is the actions you take as if you don't have a lot of time and that you are impatient, but the outcome you are looking at over a longer period of time, being patient there. I don't know if that makes sense.
It does. And I'm curious what your take on this is then, that, I mean, it seems like you have came up with this idea of organizing a seminar, and it seems like kind of one idea generated another one, and it was kind of like it just kind of gravitated you towards creating something very unique, because now you have this personal trainer certification program. How do you think because as you know, the fitness world is very, very crowded now. How do you think someone can now, in this overcrowded ocean of content producers and figures trying to get their names out, how do you think someone can come up with something original to begin with? Because it's not easy. I mean, basically all the good information in fitness has been told by someone at this point. And sometimes I just see, these guys on Facebook, like, yeah, as you said, like with a pair of abs, just posting something like, fasted cardio doesn't burn more fat. Like, it's a myth. And it's like, I'm just looking at it, it's like, oh my goodness. Like, do you really think that that's like anything that will get you noticed? So how do you think someone can break out of this and find something that they could produce some new value to people, if this question makes sense?
Yeah, no, it totally makes sense. It's just I'm going to come at it so many different angles. One, you may just not be good enough. Suck it up and get someone to pay you money instead as an employer. I think that is for probably what 90%, maybe higher. That's the best sort of advice, because as we said, you've got to be a certain type of person to have your own business. Now, for me, if someone says, "What's the most secure job in the world?" I'd say, well, one, it's not having a job. Two, it's having you have your own business. That's the most secure for me. However, other people with a different mindset, and this could be them as in just a personality thing, but more so probably how they've been brought up and the environment they've been around. As in, it's more important to, like, even when I was a teacher, my parents would be like, education, is a very secure job. That's the most secure job you can have, because teachers are always needed around the world. And I'm like, okay, tell that to everyone who's just been axed because there's lack of funding, or their school is not getting the results that they need to be getting for them to be bringing in as much money to the overall business, the education business. So that type of thing. Two, when starting out, you need to be really ultra niched. So if we look at, there's benefits for being a startup, and there's negatives at the same time. But if we keep it on with the niche, is when your competition, especially on the online world, one, the world is a massive place, therefore the pool of people is a lot bigger. So if you wanted to be the type 1 diabetic personal trainer in your local area, you're dictated to by how many people are in the area which have type 1 diabetes, how many of them actually want to do training, and how many of them actually have the money to do that. Now, that business model is going back to the shit on the wall and whether it sticks. Now, that's probably not going to stick very well on a local basis in regards to having a geolocation where people actually have to come and see you. However, when you've got the whole world, there's a lot of type 1 diabetics in the world. I don't know the stat off the top of my head. So you have your pool of people is a lot more. So the reason why I say start off being ultra niched is, even if you look at things like Amazon, they started off with just books. They wanted to be the biggest book retailer in the world. Now look at them. They sell absolutely everything. If you look at Facebook, look how big it is now. That all started off for college students. So they started off very niched. Now, the reason why you start off niche on the global level is because you reduce the competition. It's easier to stand out more. If you try to, and the beautiful thing, what we've got as startups, because I'm sure anyone listening to this now doesn't work for Amazon or own any shares in Amazon, Facebook, or Apple, is the fact that we can pivot. And it's going back to how the conferences then enabled me to take the direction that we took in regards to training education. Because when we first started off Shredded by Science, it was aimed at a 25-year-old male who wanted to get shredded to get sex. That was our avatar. That's why the name Shredded by Science worked. That's why we're rebranding, because that is no longer our avatar. And when I say avatar, I mean target audience. If you didn't know that, it's marketing terms. So we're with that being a smaller company, you're able to pivot. And when I say pivot, you're able to adjust and tweak things and do something different like that. Like if I want to change something in SBS, I can do it right now. I don't have to go and talk to board executives and worry about all of my venture capitalists and all of their money and then getting it voted in to get it done. That's the beautiful thing of a startup. I'm just reading a bookable audio book at the moment, 0 to 1. It's been pretty good so far. I've only been listening to it for the last couple of days, but I've got through about 2.5 hours of it already. And it talks about that mindset of a small startup. Be lean, but lean as in your operations, but not lean as in your value provided world. So what I mean by that is try and be as lean as possible in your business with making sure that staff efficiencies and stuff like that, because it enables you to be able to pivot where bigger companies can't. And that's the only advantage we've got. They've got more money, they've got more market share. But when you're starting out, you can change the direction, change the way you do things a lot quicker than these big companies. And that's the advantage you have. So I don't know if that sort of helped answer your question, or if you want me to sort of follow up on stuff like in regards to like standing out. One, you've got to be good enough. And guess what? You're never going to come up with anything. Well, let me rephrase that. I would have said that yesterday. You're never going to come up with anything new. But then that would be stupid. And that would be me being more pessimistic rather than optimistic. There's a ton of stuff that has still not been invented yet. So that's a lie. So I'm correcting myself there. If I would have had this podcast yesterday, I would have said, you're never going to come up with any new ideas. Now I've been listening to books and thinking about it from a different angle. The likelihood of you coming up with something new is very slim. Do you need to come up with something new? No. But what you can do is you can be you, and you can look at things at a certain angle or different interpretation. So there was always online coaches before me. There was always academies like personal training certificates before me. It's not being first to market, it's being last to market. And what I mean by that is being first to market and being if we look at tablets, for example, Microsoft or whoever it was brought out one before iPad. It just wasn't good enough. It wasn't ready. The market wasn't ready for it. So it wasn't those which are first to market. It was those which were the last to market and the only one. And that's what Apple did with the iPad. They come on board and we've seen it. They've got market share. Their iPad is so much better than the Nexus and whatever other stuff is out there. So it's not being first to market. It's being the last and the best to market. And that's when you have a successful business.
Yeah, so a couple of things that I want to dwell on for a second. So the first thing is the niche thing, which I think can be a scary proposition for a lot of people because I mean I guess everybody's kind of familiar with the idea is that the more specific you are with targeting your audience or your market, the bigger your chances are at succeeding. But at the same time, it can be scary for people that you're kind of pigeonholing yourself too much. So, but what you're saying is that you can start off very niche and then you can expand later. Is that what you said, basically?
100%. That's when you become a bigger company. So this is more so from an online perspective, but even from, so what I mean for, especially more so on the online perspective, if you are got an Instagram account and 1 minute you're posting a picture of you with your abs out and you're talking about how to get a 6-pack abs in 6 minutes, and then the next day you're posting a video on how to get up off a chair without using your arms, and you're trying to tailor that to an 85-year-old male who finds it hard to get off a chair, and then you're trying to target young mums, and then you're targeting menopausal women, like you can't, for you to stand out in this big pond, you need to be niched. And the reason why you need to be niche is because the value you provide in the free content you put out, whether it's Facebook, whether it's YouTube, whether it's Instagram, whether it's video, written, audio, for you to grow a following, to provide enough value. Like, no, when was the last time you saw someone brand new on Instagram, you saw their first post and you parted with money? It didn't happen. Yeah. You looked at their Instagram, you probably found it. You might have found it via a hashtag, or someone might have shared it or reposted it. You then looked at that, and then it's looking like a bank, like making deposits. Now, if you're putting out regular Instagram content and it's very specific to a target audience, you're putting money in that person's bank, your debit, and you're saying, look, here's some more, here's some more, here's some more, here's some more. However, if you are putting out frequent content on Instagram, but one day they're like, okay, this is really relevant to me, but all the other posts are just, I don't know what they are. There's no consistency. And it's all about relevance in regards to your target audience, relevance as in how much relevance is that to that individual. And someone could do so for example, could be a video, a YouTube video, a how-to video to create a iOS app. And that might be really good. But then you could have a how to do a French plait. Now, it's still the same medium. It's still a how-to video. It's just one is relevant to me because it's my interest, and one isn't relevant. So when I look at how to create an iOS app, and then I click on that channel, and it's got a playlist of how to create this iOS calendar, iOS calculator, iOS video, an iOS version of Instagram. Now, I'm now binge watching this person. I'm now Netflixing and chilling. And then what that enables you to do is build a following. And there's different stages. And you probably heard the term like know, like, and trust. Now, I like it, but people use it too much. And it's like, no, it's like there's so many levels of no. It's like you could know a Shredded by Science, but you don't really know how many people are in Shredded by Science. You don't really know what the Shredded by Science offer. So there's different levels of no. Now, I like to, I'm changing this up on the actual Academy slides to BLT, bacon, lettuce, tomato, is brand awareness. And if you see yourself as a brand, if you see yourself as a media company, everyone is a brand, whether it's a personal brand, a company brand, whether you are a company with one individual figure personal brand. So maybe like VaynerMedia with Gary Vaynerchuk. I don't know if you know Gary V, but he has multiple, he works on his personal brand, which then is in sync and helps his company brand. Even just me doing this podcast today. Yes, it is me. My name is Luke Johnson. I was born on 17th of the 6th, 1986. It's my personal brand, but then I've got my company branding and stuff in the background. It's having that consistency. So there's plenty of big companies which don't have a sort of one individual figure. And there's plenty of companies big companies which do have this sort of one individual figure. And it's just they're not like a one-man band. But yeah, it's just having the relevancy and consistency, and it all comes back down to brand awareness first and foremost. Like if no one knows who you are, then how do you expect to have a business where you're actually asking people to pay you money for this business? So it's brand awareness. Then I'm going straight to like, because if you didn't really like a brand or you didn't like the look of Adidas, you wouldn't buy Adidas trainers. But you need to know of Adidas. Now, whether that's them paying ads using Instagram stories or someone sharing it, or you just walking into JD Sports and looking at the shoes, there's got to be an awareness phase first and foremost. Without awareness, without knowing, they can't develop that relationship. They can't develop that like. They can't look on the Adidas shop on the internet or in the shop and go, I really like Adidas trainers. And that's where branding and marketing is. So branding is more of a rule book and marketing is more of how you carry out that rule book. So you'll hear like Nike, just do it. But then their marketing would be, they use athletes. They use, Nike's been influence marketing for years and years. They use their athletes. Look at Michael Jordan. They even got his buy-in to actually have the Jordan brand within the Nike brand. Right. So there's marketing's more of the tactical way and branding sort of getting your message across. So there's some stuff there.
So I definitely want to ask two follow-up questions on the kind of brand consistency and then the marketing side of things. But as far as like being consistent with your brand and the type of content that you're putting out, what do you think about this whole concept of doing very sophisticated like market research before you get started? Because there's kind of two conflicting advice that I see on this. One of it is the very pragmatic, just explore the market, do complex research, check what are the real needs of people. And the other one is kind of like the Tim Ferriss type of, scratch your own itch, create the product that you would want to see in the market, that what you are missing at the moment. So what do you think about this?
I mean, there's plenty of business which are out there now, which have basically scratched your own itch, as in, this is really annoying. If only there was, and we hear it time and time again, if only there was a app which done this, if there was something which done this. So there's definitely a hell of a lot of businesses which have happened by people trying to scratch their own itch, find a way how they can make their life a lot easier. So I definitely think that's a thing. If you speak to people and there's a load of people which also have the same itch or the same problem, then the success of your business will be how much of a market is there? How much of a demand is there for this new thing that I've just created? So I definitely think there's some merit towards that type of thing. But then you hear the time of the things like plan, do, review. I think especially with most fitness professionals, like ideas mean shit. Like going back to the likelihood of you coming up with something new is probably going to be slim. It may be, but there's only a certain number of Mark Zuckerbergs and Elon Musk and Richard Branson and guys like that. There's only a certain number of them. And if you're listening to the podcast, you probably like, you're not that. That's just reality, as in you're just not that. As in the reality of me being like that is still slim, even though I've never fully admit it. The likelihood of me beating Usain, this is the type of mindset I've got. I know I'll never be able to beat Usain Bolt in a race, but the Luke in me always thinks, if I was younger and I dedicated all my time and effort into sprinting, I honestly would think that I could beat Usain Bolt.
Of course.
And but then deep down, I know that the likelihood of that even happening would be very slim because no one else can do it in the world. So why does that make me special? I'm a guy who sees something which is 13 foot in the air, and I look up and I go, I think I can touch that because I used to play basketball. So I can hang on the rim, and even if it was above my thing, I'd always be like, I could get that. So I think there's two camps on the fitness world. They like to spin their wheels. And all they do is think about research. They don't even research properly. They just plan. And there's no action. I can guarantee one thing. You don't get nothing without action in it. And Alan Aragon come up with a good quote where he said, action cures fear. And it's there's a thought of things which puts people off. But when you actually do it, the fear goes away. It's knowing where your comfort barrier is. My comfort barrier is probably wider than most, but then there's context to everything. So if I'm driving, I don't know where the hell I am, I will be totally out of my comfort zone. If someone asked me to present on a topic which was outside of my knowledge, I would be outside my comfort zone. But it's knowing what's your comfort zone currently, and for you to get to where you need to be, you need to just gradually, day by day, not even day by day, but gradually keep extending that comfort zone. And then that's when things just happen. Like, don't think about, oh, what happens if, oh, should I email Alan Alcon? What about if he doesn't get back to me? Oh, shut up. Just do it. Like, take emotion out of business. Like, there should be no emotion in business. Emotion should maybe come after the outcome. But what people do, which is just innately thing, and probably what society does, is they allow emotion to dictate their actions, but we should allow our actions to dictate our emotions, if that makes sense.
No results will come from no action. That is for sure. However, at the same time, I mean, how we touched on how a lot of people are trying to kind of sell the same exact thing. I have tons of friends, like quote unquote friends, on Facebook that, somehow we became like acquaintances on Facebook, and I see the things that they're posting, and it's very evident to me that like there's a community of people who are listening to the smart folks in fitness, and probably all of them, every single one of them can, set up a macro plan for someone, tell what their macros are. Pretty much all of these people could tell someone how to get a six-pack. Do you think, like, even though just like how it's unlikely that any of us would beat Usain Bolt, it's pretty unlikely that, any of these people will actually make a good living out of telling people how to make a good six-pack, because there are just too many of these people right now. Do you think that they should just still try it? Or would you say that, no, dude, you at this point, you just have to look a little bit further. You have to hone your skills a little bit more, because it's just not going to cut it at this point?
I think research is definitely an important thing. I think either people do too much of it and don't actually action, or people don't do enough of it. And you hear the things like, it's good to learn from your mistakes. I'm like, hell no. It's best to learn from other people's mistakes. Like, it's all about a learning curve. So if you can speak to people which have been where you are, or they're like 3 or 4 years ahead of where you currently are, I definitely think that's a thing. I definitely think that you just need to do it and see. But the more you do the research, the less mistakes you will make. And whether that's research as in speaking to people which have been there, done that, whether it's looking at market trends, whether it's just looking at history. Is history going to repeat itself? And what other companies are out there? What are they doing? Looking at similar companies to things that you want to do. What do they do well? What don't they do well? So when I started the academy, I probably spent 40, 50 hours looking at all the other options currently out there. And I didn't invent this. I just was like, okay, thank you for being 5 or 10 years ahead of me. I'm going to take the good bits, and the bad bits I'm going to tweak, and we're going to come up with something that's the best in the market. And that's what I know that we've done with the SPS Academy. So the research is definitely important, but action is more important, because actions create a reaction. And then from that's when once we get that, we can then review it. If you don't actually action stuff, you don't know what the actual result will be. And the market will let you know if you're good enough. And the result you get today, so let's say you've been Instagramming a little bit, and you put up an Instagram post and you say, I'm looking for 4 new clients. The result will be what the result will be, predicated on the value you've provided. So it goes back to the whole brand awareness. How many people know of you? How many people have you provided value to on a generic level, but also on a specific level? Because I know now that me and you are going to have more of a relationship because we're speaking to one another, where before it's just a Facebook message. So it's looking at how many, you need to give yourself as many opportunities to basically be seen, but then provide value on a sort of a micro level. So macro as in getting people to know who you are. And that happens via many things, whether it's social media, whether it's a podcast, whether it's doing actual in-person stuff around the local area. That's going to help with that. But then you really want to dig in on a one-to-one level to get the actual results. So the outcome will be what the outcome should be. but it's the processes you've taken up to that point which will dictate the result.
Right. And speaking of the value you create and the kind of the reach that you're trying to establish by marketing, it's kind of it strikes me as there is kind of like these two camps in the fitness world, but I think in business in general, where one camp says that it's all about the value you create, and if you create big enough value for people, then the marketing is basically just going to take care of itself. I know, and probably you do too, people who are tremendously successful who have employed that kind of model. And then there are kind of the Gary V type of mentality, which is like, you want to be romantic or do you want to succeed? So if you want to succeed, like just get on Snapchat and market the crap out of your business. So I mean, and obviously this is a false dichotomy. It's not mutually exclusive. You do either one or the other. But what do you think about this? Opposition.
I definitely think when you need to make money, you need to make money, but you need to have something of need to a certain type of person and enough people to make money. And that's the thing. You've got I'd love to. And that's what you get as well, is you get the Instagrammers who literally just post a picture of them topless with all of their 5 discount codes for their food, Uber, whatever supplements and whatever it is. And there's no value. And I definitely think that is not the way to go. But there's a time to ask, and there's for money. And then there's a time to basically, even from a personal training point of view, because I suppose most people maybe listen to a podcast more fitness. If you've spent 26 days of the month providing value, and then around payday, you actually asked for them to part with cash, but the people you asked were the people which engaged on your Facebook page, were the people which went onto your website, were the people that went onto your coaching application page on your website, because you've got a Facebook pixel on there, that. They're the people to pitch to. So it's like you can't sell to the unsellable, but then what you can do is when you do try to sell, you make sure that person is on the brink. And even with the academy, I'll send an email out in the next few days just saying, if you are seriously considering signing up to the academy, but you would like to get on the phone with me, then let's arrange a call and let's chat. And I've done that last intake, and I must have spoke to about 25 to 30 people. And I think pretty much all of them, maybe 1 or 2 didn't sign up. It was just having them, they already bought into it. But that was because we had marketed. Like, there is no company out there who has the same target audience as us that puts out more content. And the reason why is because I have the mentality, and I'm the guy steering the ship. And there's plenty of people on board the SBS, the Shredded by Shipping. There's plenty of people on board on that. But our whole marketing, or a lot of our marketing, is we're just going to put out a ton of free content. And we don't feel like we sell, because we don't need to sell, because what we've done is, for the months, years prior to that, we've shown our value, we've shown our wealth, and we've basically saying, here's something, the academy, and if you'd like to part with some money because you think it would be the right fit for you, we've just given you all of this content for free. So imagine how good the actual academy is if you have to, when you pay for it. And it's having that solution, and the solution needs to be monetized, because without money, you don't have a business. Without cash flow, you don't have a business. So you can help as many people out in the world with doing their online coaching and doing this and that. But it goes back to the whole oxygen mask. You need to make sure your oxygen mask is fitted first, so that you can actually help people. And when it comes to business with me, I don't really set. I do set like our target in 2018 to 2019 is to turn over 500k. We're on 250 at the moment, so it's like, well, I'm being a bit ambitious with it. But the way you've got to look at it in your business model is, if you want to achieve a certain amount of money, then you need to look at what you're currently offering. And what I mean by that is, if you're doing online coaching and you are charging £100 per month, and you want to turn over your 6 figures, because it seems like the fitness industry always wants 6 figures. I'm like, well, do it in Indian rupee and you've got that pretty much straight away. It's decent. But in regards to like Great British pounds or US dollars and stuff like that, that means you have to have over 80 clients per month paying you on average £100 to turn over 6 figures. Yeah. So with that business model, can you imagine doing 80 training plans every single month, having 80 people potentially email you every single day, looking to do 80 weekly updates every single week? That is a lot of work. So it's mapping your goals and your ambition, whether that's a financial goal, whether it's something else. It's making sure you map it to what you currently do, because insanity is doing the same thing and expecting different results. And it's the same thing with your business. If you want to turn over 1 million, you need to impact more people. You need to provide value to more people. You need to have more people aware of you to then be able to monetize through whether it's a service, whether it's a product, and it's reverse engineering what you want. And there's nothing wrong with having a financial goal. There's nothing wrong with saying you want to make money, because I'll say I want to make a shit ton of money as much as possible while maintaining my integrity, because then I'd rather have no money. But I think with the fitness industry, it's seen and frowned upon as if someone actually says they want to make money. And the money you will make will be predicated on the amount of value you provide people. So if you're a personal trainer and you basically help 10 clients, and that is it, your client base is 10 clients, but you want to make 200,000 a year, you're going to have to be providing a hell of a lot of value for them 10 people to do so. But if you want to make millions, you need to help millions.
So it's you have a very firm stance, and like it seems like your views on business and building up kind of an empire or just a following. It looks like these ideas in your head are very developed. Did you have any kind of resources, books, or just people that you followed that helped you develop this, or did you just pick it up like intuitively?
When I started the reason why I started Shredded by Science was, okay, I can probably take 30 to 40 clients. And this is like knowing your numbers as well, like truly knowing your numbers. I knew I could take on 30 to 40 clients. I could get them charging maybe max £200 a month. And I knew, right, that's how much I can turn over. I then mapped that to where I wanted to be. And for me, it's just, I want to make 7 figures. Not because I'm just going to go and roll around with that Gucci mink and get that Rolls Royce Phantom like the McGregor. For me, it goes back to the competition. It's knowing that I can. That's what gets me going. Because people which know me and truly know me, like family and friends, they will tell you I'm very generous. I'd rather buy you something than buy me something. So it's not that the money motivates me. It's just the motivation for me to make 7 figures. It's just the fact of competing to do so. And I knew the reason why I started SBS was, okay, I'm going to be limited to the amount of clients I can take on. So what I'm going to do, and this is going back to the pivoting and changing direction and stuff like that, is we're going to have two coaches. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to do where we all do the branding and marketing. Like SBS is just me. Like I am the only founder. I'm the only one who has 100% shares in the business. But we have many people which make to sail the ship as such. And for me to make more money and the business to make more money, we needed to hire coaches. I had the systems, we had the branding, we had the social media. They also included content alongside that. And basically what a lot of personal trainers don't do that well is actually getting clients. Like you can be the greatest programmer in the world and do all of the periodizations and all of the DUP and know everything there is to know about nutrition. But if you actually can't get in front of people or actually get people to convert as clients, then it means then it's just like, oh, well done. You've got some really good academic smarts, but you're not getting paid. That is terrible news. So with that, I knew where my strengths were. And then we took on 3 clients. We got up to 12 free coaches, Then we got up to 12 coaches at one point. But then I'm looking at it and I'm going, okay, the coaches are getting a percentage. They're getting 60 to 70%, depending on how many clients they had at one time. But then once you have when you're VAT registered and there's tax, I'm like, per client, even though we're upping our prices, we're only getting like the business or me, Shredded by Science, might only be like 10 to 15 pound a month for clients. So I looked at that business model and I was like, we need to be generating hundreds of thousands of pounds. We need to have thousands of clients. So then what I did was look at my strengths and my background. Obviously, I have a teaching degree as well as a sports science degree. But and then I was okay, let's create the academy, because we don't have to trade our time for money. We don't have to do training plans. Like for every person that signs up to the academy, it's not as if I have to give them a training plan all the time, every single month. So there's a workload, there's a business, it's a more scalable business. And rather than get £10, £15 a month, the business were getting a lot more than that per member which signed up. And we're signing up. Our last intake was 140, and this intake, our target's 150. And it's mapping your goals and ambition to the services you provide. It's doing what Amazon done, starting off with books and then going, actually, we're going to now start selling DVDs, CDs, and then we're actually going to start creating our own hardware in regards to a Kindle, and then software. And it's having that business mindset to always be evolving and looking at how can we either get more people in to make more money? How can we use our current members or client base and give them more value, so that we're getting more so like the client lifetime value? And it's tweaking things and putting things in place, and having a business and setting it up in a way that it doesn't trade your time for money as such, and your business model is based on a value model. And that's what we have with the academy. It's not as if we have to teach every single week, because the content is there. And what I look at is, in the infancy stages of a business, which I think people make the mistake of, they get that short-term money. Like you don't have to be a mathematician to work out 140 people paying on average 1,150 to work out. That's quite a lot of money. But then what you do then is, when you're early stages of your business, because it's good to have a long-term focus, is I spend X amount of money on getting it all illustrated, which is a lot of money. I invest that money in getting our brand new software. So we've got our own web app, we've got an iOS app, we've got an Android app. So we're not using a crappy little Moodle third-party thing. We've actually got our own custom built software. But then I've got a mindset of, I'm going to go to these other academies and say, do you want your custom built software? Because I've got all the coding. And if they want that, they can either pay me 30, 40 grand for that, and it'll take us a week or two to actually get it in place, because it's not the software, it's not the spreadsheet, it's the whole ecosystem. And I'm beating them all the time because they just don't get it. And they're not looking at doing stuff now. Like the reason why I'm on Snapchat is not to make money straight away, even though it does make me money, is because I want to go to where the 16, 17, 18-year-olds are. And I don't care if they've got the money now. I actually don't want them to have the money now, but I want to be in their face. I want to have their attention. And then when they are 20, 21, and they've got money, they're going to come to Shredded by Science. They ain't going anywhere else. So it's looking at how you make money immediately and how you're doing stuff now to get a return of investment in 2, 3, 5, 10, 20 years, and always evolving and tweaking stuff and looking at how you can gradually start getting less niched, selling more stuff or putting on more services. And that's what we're doing at SBS. We're going to rebrand. We still have the academy, but then we're looking at, for us to make more money, for us to turn over 500,000, we're going to go F the government. We don't care about reps. We don't care about SimSpa. I mean, if you've seen their content, what year are they in? I mean, it's 2017 and they're still like marketing like it's 2001, or not even that. Like the internet's just come out, and their graphics, their tone, their illustrations, their content they put out is just terrible. So that's where we're actually going to say, right, we're going to actually create our own ecosystem where we have the certification, we have the ongoing education. I mean, we're going to have a course on how to set up a podcast. And you gradually, once you've niched, you start gradually going out. But we're set up, I can set up ads, and it'll be how to set up a fitness podcast. And I can target you. I can send you over to our blog post, which is how to set up a fitness podcast. If you've clicked on that website and you're reading that page and you're on that, I know that. And guess what? Next time you go on Facebook or YouTube, you're going to see an ad, and you're going to see, oh, use this coupon code and save X amount on this how to set up a podcast. Now, the reason why we're introducing this element is because there's only so much you can teach on the academy. And rather than me sending you away to pay money for something that's going to be inferior, we find out what it is you want and what you need. And it's going back to being a consumer concerned company or consumer focused company, not concerned. A consumer focused company is what we are. We are a media company and we are consumer focused. We care about what you want and we deliver it. We don't, what a lot of people do, especially in the fitness industry, are competitor focused. They're looking at what's this other trainer doing? What's this other Instagram influencer doing? Oh, they're bringing out a crappy little guide. So let's bring out a guide. Oh, this academy is doing that. I don't give two flying Fs of what other academies are doing. I know what they're doing because it's good business to actually research and know what they're doing. And if I can learn something from them, then I'm willing to learn. Whether it's learning from them doing good or learning from them doing bad, you can always learn from other people, other companies, and you use that information to either take on board and mold things or tweak things, or you take it on, or you learn about it and you don't take it on board. But I always know I'm going to win because we're now gradually getting into being less niched because we have a following. But even then, we're a spec. And I think that's what people especially in the science-based community, the fitness industry is a small community. The science-based community in the fitness industry is even smaller. Yeah. And that's the thing, when you want to be making millions, and what I do is I don't look at, I want to make $1 million. That's a goal. But I look at how can I get more people to know of us, first of all, and then how can we provide more value to people? And then as a byproduct of that, how can we get a sign up? I chase a sign up. I don't have on my academy board up there, I want to make 200 grand from this academy intake. I have up there 150 signups. I don't look at people. I look at a sign up because I always know the mentality is sign up. The byproduct is money because you charge for that. And I think it's having that focus, consumer focus and sign up focus more so, because you know the money will come. So don't need to focus on money. When people focus on money, it just doesn't, things never happen. I just think the focus is not where it should be. People are not a currency. People are people, and we need to get people on board. And the only way people are going to part with money is if they know of you and they like you enough and they think what you have to offer is valuable. So it doesn't matter how good your marketing is. If your product is shit, like you shouldn't have to, you shouldn't really have to, it's a weird one because you always have to market, but when something is the best, you don't have to market. Like the iPhone is the iPhone. You don't have to market. They did when they first started, they had to market it. But when you make sure you've got the best product, or you've got the best academy, or you've got the best product or service, supplement, whatever it is, when you focus on the product and you make it the best possible thing on the market, people will tell people and it will soon be realized. And the amount of marketing you need to do is going to be a lot less because your product is so good.
Yeah, I guess it's almost like an inverse correlation with the more value you can create, the less marketing you need. And perhaps that can be a comforting thought for a lot of people who, maybe in the initial stages, you have to spend maybe like 50% of your time self-promoting and 50% of the time actually creating content. And later on, like you said, you are in a situation where a lot of people will find Shredded by Science, even if you don't do any marketing, because you're associated with people. If anything, you're associated with people who, when Eric Helm says, I would recommend Shredded by Science because it's the best education that you can get for fitness. Yeah, then basically the marketing just took care of itself. So yeah, cool. So I think you shared a shit ton of value here, so I want to thank you a lot for that. Like, really, it's been really crazy valuable. Just before I ask my very last question to you, would you please tell people where they can find you, Shredded by Science, everything that you're up to and working on?
Yeah, if you just go shreddedbyscience.com, there's like widgets at the bottom of the website. There's things at the top. If you're on Snapchat, give us an ad. Just basically whatever platforms, the 2 platforms you spend your most time on, just maybe click on them and follow us on them. And that's it. So yeah, just shreddedbyscience.com. Our handles is for all platforms is at Shred by Science because there's too many characters to have Shredded by Science. So yeah, at Shred by Science for everything. And that's another little tip there. Make sure when you get in the business name, you try and make sure you've got the .com, the Instagram, the Twitter, the Facebook, the Snap, the YouTube. So you can have the same sort of at Shred by Science.
Right. Okay, cool beans. And so my very last question to you is, you shared a lot of knowledge here about business, but I would be curious, and I know you've been asked similar questions in the past, and I don't want to put you too much in the spot, but have you had any kind of revelations or any kind of lessons in the past few years that have shaped the way you do things or just your outlook on things, and you think it would be a useful kind of guiding principle for other people to kind of live by?
Yeah, I think a few things. Never think that you're the finished article. Never think that there's no way. Like if you did with me, there's always a way. And if I don't know it personally, I'm gonna find someone who does, or I'm gonna search it on Google or watch a YouTube video. So you're gonna have to put the work in. When you start off in business, you're gonna have to put the work in because you're the business owner, the employee, the employer, the marketer, the website guy. You're everything. So it's knowing where your strengths are, and when focusing on that, really going all in on it, you have to put the effort in, you have to put the work in. But always be, when starting off a business, always, you're going to have to do the shitty jobs, but when you have enough money, invest it, as in get someone to work for you, whether it's part-time, whether it's full-time. And even if you enjoy the things you do, so for me, I quite like videography and editing and stuff like that, but it takes time. So it's knowing that for you to be the man, you have to be the man. As in, you can't be spending your time doing the small little odd jobs here and then. At the start, you do, but when you can, invest. Never be, always be adaptable and always be observant. And what I mean by that is the market can change pretty quick. And the benefit you have as a small startup or a small business is that you can pivot and change really quickly. And yeah, just always, before you make a decision, ask yourself this one question. This would be quite good to finish off on. If I do X, what will Y be? And can I live with Y? And at the end of the day, the reason why I am where I am now, and hopefully in about 5 years' time, I'll be
Cool.
I'll be pretty much looking back on this going, God, look at that. Look how far I've come. Look how great I've got. But no, what you always ask yourself, can you live with that result? And if you can live with that result, then it's probably more than likely you should do it. The only thing which will ever stop me doing something is if it affects my family or me or the people around me that I care in a negative way. If it only has a sort of if it's like I lose all my money, I can live with that because I can make money. But I think it's going back to, you have one life, so try and make the most of it. It's not like live like it's your last day on earth, because the probability of that is very slim, even though there is a chance. But it's making that decision based on, can you live with it? And if you can live with it, do it. If you can't live with it, then be more calculated about how you do it. Maybe don't do it as quickly, and make sure that you revisit that in a month once you put things in place, so that the worst case scenario, you can live with it.
Right. Awesome. That's a great piece of insight. So thank you so much. And yeah, I want to thank you for taking the time today. It's been really cool to get all this knowledge, and I'm sure the listeners will take great value from it too. So yeah, thank you so much. All right, guys, Abel here again. Hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, please subscribe on YouTube if you watched it there. I come out with new content every week there, whether it's in the form of a podcast episode like this, which I actually aim to do one of every week, or some shorter informational video. Also, if you could just leave a comment and suggest some people that you'd like me to interview, or just topics you'd like me to cover, it would be very helpful to know how I can better serve you. And if you listen to it in podcast format, if you could leave a rating on iTunes, it would greatly help out the show, and I would be more than grateful for it. So thanks, guys, for hanging out up until now. Thanks for being here, and see you all next week.